A fundamental question that you should be asking yourself if you're a company law student or a corporate law student is, on the one hand, who owns the company, and on the other hand, who controls the company? We already know from an earlier very brief lecture that a corporation or a company is a legal person indeed in the eyes of the law. However, since it is an artificial legal person and not a natural one, so obviously it must act through human agents. Now, one might naturally presume that the answer to these questions, that is, who owns the company and who controls the company, is simply going to be that it is the owners of the company who are going to be the controllers of the company. That is, the owners themselves are going to control the company. But as we will see in this lecture, this is not always the case. So in this lecture, we are going to consider first small companies, and then later on we are going to look at large companies. In small companies, usually the owners, that is the shareholders, are also the same people who manage and control the company. Even if this shareholder or owner is not holding all of the shares and there are additional shareholders, these shareholders are typically related to the majority owner, and they are therefore participating in managing the company alongside the majority owner, and therefore it is not uncommon that these shareholders, that is the one who is holding the majority of the shares, and the additional shareholders who are holding some amount of the shares, are usually relatives, and therefore they act as co-managers. And of course, most of the time this kind of a situation will be found in a company that is registered as private instead of a public company. Therefore, in small companies, which are usually private companies, the separation of ownership and control is not much of an issue. That is, that there is no problem when the shareholding is small, because the shareholders are considered to be the exclusive owners of the company. They are the ones who invest their capital in the company by purchasing the company's shares, and of course they expect a return for their investment. And the key take-home message is that in such small private companies, the majority shareholders and the managers are in fact the same people. Now, let us contrast the situation in small private companies with those of large companies, which are usually registered as public companies. And in particular, we are going to be discussing the situation in public listed companies, that is, those companies that have their shares or stocks listed on the stock market. Now, you need to imagine the situation that what happens is that once a company resorts to the stock market in order to attract more capital by, of course, selling their shares, this situation means that the shares are potentially going to be sold to millions of people. So obviously, in such a situation, the answer to the question as to who controls the company is not going to be the same as the answer to the question as to who owns the company. Why? Because now the ability of the shareholders, that is the millions of shareholders, to actually and in practice to control the affairs of the company is not going to be the same as that in a small private company for practical reasons. And even the reasons themselves are not too difficult to understand. Why? Because if you think about it, how is it going to be possible where there are a large number of shareholders potentially running in the millions? How is it going to be possible to inform each of these individual shareholders about the everyday running of the company? And of course, it's just not going to be possible to involve each of these shareholders in the day-to-day business of the company. And of course, even if it were possible to involve all of these millions of people in the decision-making processes, then you can just imagine the conflict of interest, that is, the disagreements that would arise if all of these people are going to be involved in the everyday decision-making processes. So it is for these practical reasons that a large company is going to be governed in practice instead by a very small number, that is a very limited number of people, and these people are referred to as the directors of the company, and it is therefore the directors who are considered as being the people who control the company, and the shareholders are simply seen as being the owners of the company. So in short, it is going to be the directors who take all of the crucial decisions based on what they think are the best interests of the company. And hopefully now you can appreciate and understand the topic and the title of this video lecture, that is the separation of ownership and control. And most importantly, you should be able to see the need, that is the reason for this separation. And the reason is that in large companies where a company's shares are going to be owned by a large number of shareholders, with obviously no single person owning a significant number of shares, that is, there is no majority shareholder most of the time. So what happens is that the shareholders delegate management of the company to directors who may or may not also be members of the company. Now, the difference between a member and a shareholder is the topic for another lecture, but for now, the key take-home message from this lecture is that shareholders in a public company are not going to be the ones who control the company, and instead, shareholders elect a board of directors to serve as their representatives, and these directors are the ones who set the company's overall strategy and make most of the high-level decisions. But now, please note that it is not the directors who control the everyday affairs of the company, that is the day-to-day business. Why? Because obviously, even the directors are not going to be able to do everything, and therefore, the directors usually appoint full-time managers to run the day-to-day business of a company. And in later video lectures, we're also going to look at the posts of other officers, for example, the CEO, that is the Chief Executive Officer. But the topic of this video is restricted only to understanding the reason for the separation between ownership and control, and hopefully the reason is clear to you by the end of this lecture. But I'm going to end this lecture with a simple question, and that is that don't you think that the fact that the shareholders are the ones who are going to elect the board of directors means that it is at the end of the day the shareholders who indirectly control the affairs of the company? And I have decided after some thought to answer this question right away, because I do not want to leave you bewildered at the end of the video. So the answer is once again quite simple. So even though it is the shareholders who appoint the board of directors to act for the company, however, their power to influence, that is the shareholders' power to influence the conduct of the directors, is not seen in practice, particularly in very large companies. Why? Because individual shareholders in large companies are so widely dispersed, that is, the shareholding base is so widely spread out, and each shareholder may have relatively small shareholdings in very large companies, and in such cases, therefore, the board of directors is going to be relatively free from the strict control of the shareholders, and instead the company is usually going to rely more heavily on the board of directors to take decisions swiftly as and when the need arises in that particular company.